The night was quiet, too quiet for the city. The hum of distant traffic had faded, and the only sound inside Ethan's apartment was the slow tick of a wall clock. 2:17 a.m. He was half asleep on the couch, a muted television flickering shadows across the room. Then the phone rang. He blinked at the screen, trying to focus. The caller ID showed a number he recognized instantly, his own. His chest tightened. It had to be a glitch, a bad signal, or maybe someone spoofing his number. Still, his finger hovered over the screen before he finally swiped to answer. Hello. For a moment, nothing, just static and the low hum of interference. Then came a voice. Ethan. The sound froze him. The voice was older, tired, shaken. But it was his, unmistakably his. You need to listen to me, the voice said, breath heavy, urgent. Don't open the door tomorrow night. No matter what happens. Promise me. Ethan's heart pounded. He sat upright. Who is this? What kind of? The voice cut in sharply. There isn't time. You don't understand yet, but you will. You'll think this is a joke, but it's not. Tomorrow at 9:04 p.m. The line crackled. The signal began breaking apart, words fading in and out. You'll hear it, don't open. Wait, what are you talking about? Ethan's voice trembled. Who are you? The only response was heavy breathing, familiar, steady, almost mirror-like. I'm you, Ethan. From what's left of the future. The line went dead. The silence that followed was suffocating. The television flickered once and turned off on its own. Ethan's reflection in the black screen stared back at him, pale and stunned. He told himself it had to be a prank. Someone using his number, mimicking his voice. Technology could do anything these days. Right? He stood, the floorboards creaking under his bare feet, and checked the hallway. Everything looked normal still. But his ears caught something. A sound. A faint knock. He froze. It came again, 3 soft taps against the front door. He swallowed hard, walked closer. Each step felt heavier, like the air itself was thickening. Through the peephole, nothing. Just darkness and the dim orange glow of the hallway light. The knock came again. He pressed his palm against the door. Who's there? No answer. He glanced at his phone, lying on the couch. The call screen was blank. No record of any incoming calls. His hands began to shake. The ticking of the clock grew louder, faster. 2:18 a.m. Another knock, louder this time. Who is it? Ethan's voice broke, part fear, part disbelief. Still silence. And then one last sound, a whisper, low and close, like it was coming from just behind the door. You shouldn't have answered. The lights flickered. Ethan stumbled back, heart hammering. The air turned cold, heavy with the scent of metal and rain. And then, silence again. He stared at the door, waiting for another sound, another sign of movement. But the world seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance. Ethan sank onto the couch, his eyes locked on the door, the phone still glowing faintly beside him. He didn't notice the new message that appeared on the screen. Unknown number, 1 unread text. I told you not to answer. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his couch, the pale morning light seeping through the blinds, painting thin bars across the floor. The memory of that whisper still echoed in his head. You shouldn't have answered. It had felt too real, too close to be imagination. He told himself it must have been a nightmare. A half-dream. The kind you slip into when you're too tired to tell what's real. But when he picked up his phone again, the text was still there, the message from the unknown number. I told you not to answer. No call history. No record of anything. It was as if the call never happened. Ethan deleted the message, restarted the phone, even pulled the SIM card out and put it back in. Nothing changed. The silence in the apartment pressed on him, thick and heavy. Then, somewhere deep in the walls, a sound. Knock. It was faint, almost delicate. But it was there. He turned toward the door, chest tight. Nothing. Then again, knock. A slow, steady rhythm this time. He walked to the door, the same cold floor under his feet as last night. Through the peephole, empty hallway. No movement. Not even the hum of the fluorescent light that usually buzzed in the corner. It was out, leaving everything washed in a dull orange glow from the exit sign. The knocking continued. "Who's there?" Ethan's voice cracked. No response. Just that same slow rhythm. He grabbed his phone, hands trembling. He opened the camera and aimed it through the peephole. The screen showed nothing but the same still hallway, until the camera flickered. For a single frame, something moved past the lens. A figure, blurred, tall, almost human in shape, then gone. Ethan dropped the phone. The screen cracked on impact, the reflection splitting down the center like a scar. He stumbled back, pulse racing. Then the knocking stopped. Silence. He waited, every muscle locked, afraid to breathe. Minutes passed before he dared move again. When he finally opened the door, the hallway was just as he'd seen, empty. But at his feet lay something small. A folded note, yellowed at the edges as if aged by years. He crouched down and picked it up. The paper felt cold. On the front, written in shaky handwriting, was his name. Inside, only 4 words. "Don't trust the mirrors." His stomach dropped. He scanned the hallway again, half expecting someone to be watching. Nothing. Just that same eerie quiet. He stepped back inside, shut the door, locked it twice. The clock ticked loudly, 9:04 p.m. His breath hitched. That was the time the voice on the phone had warned him about. The lights dimmed. A low static hum filled the air, coming from the cracked phone screen still lying on the floor. It vibrated once. Then again. Incoming call. The number, blank. Ethan hesitated, fingers hovering above the accept button. "Don't," he whispered to himself. But before he could stop it, the phone answered on its own. The speaker hissed with static, then a faint whisper came through. "You're making it worse." The line went dead. And from somewhere behind him, the soft, rhythmic sound of knuckles against glass. Knock, knock. The knocking faded as the dawn broke. Ethan sat frozen at the kitchen table, his cracked phone lying beside a cold cup of coffee. Every few seconds, he caught himself glancing at the window, afraid to see his reflection move again. The message on the note echoed in his mind. "Don't trust the mirrors." He didn't understand what it meant, but something inside him did. A quiet, buried instinct that made his skin crawl every time he passed a reflective surface. The mirror in the hallway. The dark TV screen. Even the metal of the toaster, each seemed to shimmer slightly, as though it were breathing. By noon, he couldn't take it anymore. He needed answers. Ethan put on his jacket and stepped out into the gray daylight. The city streets looked washed out, almost drained of color. He found himself heading toward a place he hadn't visited in years, the old radio repair shop, tucked between a laundromat and a closed bookstore. He had once worked there with his younger brother, Liam. Before the fire. Before the silence. The bell above the door chimed faintly as he stepped inside. Dust coated the counters. The air smelled like burnt wires and old rain. The back room door was still half open, the same one Liam had walked through the last night Ethan saw him. He ran his hand across a rusted shelf, fingers tracing the grooves of an old photo frame. Inside was a faded picture of the two of them, grinning, smudged with grease and light. But in the reflection of the glass, the background was wrong. The walls behind their mirrored selves weren't the same. They looked newer, rebuilt. Ethan's breath caught. He turned around quickly. Nothing had changed. The shop was still abandoned. Still broken. But when he looked back at the picture, his mirrored reflection was still looking away, facing something in the distance. His phone vibrated in his pocket. A known number. He stared at it for a long moment before answering. "Ethan," the voice rasped. It was his again, older. "What? You went back. You shouldn't have." Ethan's voice shook. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" "It's not about me," the voice said. "It's about what you did. The fire. The accident. You can't undo it, but you can still stop what's coming." Ethan gripped the phone tighter. "Stop what?" The line crackled violently, the sound of flames and static blending. Then the voice whispered, barely audible. "Look closer at the mirror behind the counter." The call ended. Ethan turned slowly. At the back of the shop, behind the counter, hung a cracked rectangular mirror. He hadn't noticed it before. The glass was fogged, its surface rippling like water. As he approached, his reflection didn't move with him. It stayed still, staring at something over his shoulder. Ethan spun around. No one. When he looked back, the reflection smiled. A sound came from the mirror, a faint hum, almost mechanical. Then, from the bottom corner of the glass, a thin burn mark began to spread, forming the outline of a door. And faintly, beneath the hiss of static, a child's voice whispered his name. Ethan. His blood turned cold. He stepped back, heart pounding, but couldn't tear his eyes away. In the reflection, the door was opening. Ethan stumbled out of the shop, the sound of the whisper still clinging to his ears. The city outside felt different now, quieter, like the world itself was listening. Every reflection he passed, from windows to puddles, seemed to ripple slightly, distorting his face for just a second too long. The memory of that smile in the mirror replayed in his head. It wasn't just a reflection. It was something else. Something watching. He walked aimlessly through the narrow backstreets behind the repair shop, the air heavy with the scent of oil and rain. His thoughts twisted around the same questions. What did the voice mean about the fire? Why did every clue lead him back to Liam? Then he heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Matching his pace. He turned, scanning the alleyway, but the space was empty. Only the hum of distant traffic and the dripping of rain from a broken gutter filled the air. He quickened his pace. The footsteps did the same. Who's there? His voice echoed against the brick walls. A figure emerged from the fog at the end of the alley, tall, thin, his face hidden beneath the brim of a hat. He moved with an unsettling calm, as though he had been waiting there all along. You're late, the man said. His tone was steady, familiar. You were supposed to find me yesterday. Ethan froze. Do I know you? The man stepped closer, enough for the dim streetlight to catch half of his face. There was something unnervingly familiar about him. The jawline, the tired eyes. You should, the man said quietly. We met the night of the fire. Ethan's stomach dropped. That's not possible. That was years ago? The stranger smirked. You think time works the same way for both of us? The words hit him like ice. Ethan took a step back. What do you mean, both of us? The man didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out something small, a photo folded and worn. He handed it to Ethan. Ethan hesitated, then took it. His breath caught. It was a picture of two boys, him and Liam, standing in front of the radio shop. But in the background, through the reflection in the window, stood the same man. Watching them. Ethan looked up, panic rising. Who are you? The man's expression softened. I tried to stop you once. I thought I could change it. But the fire always happens. You always forget. And I always end up here. Ethan shook his head, disbelief clouding reason. You're lying. Am I? The man said. You still have the burn scar behind your shoulder, don't you? Ethan froze. His hand instinctively touched the faint mark just below his collarbone. A scar he never remembered getting. He looked back up, but the man was gone. Rain fell harder now, drumming against metal and pavement. Ethan's pulse raced as he searched the alley, but it was empty. Only one thing remained where the man had stood, an ID card lying face down in the puddle. Ethan picked it up, wiping away the water. It was his own ID. Same name. Same birthday. But the photo showed him older. And there was a deep scar running down his face. His fingers trembled. Behind him, thunder rolled through the sky, echoing like laughter through the narrow alley. Rain poured through the night, washing the city into a blur of silver and shadow. Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the image of the ID card burned into his mind. His face, but older. The same scar the stranger had mentioned. Every part of him wanted to believe it was a mistake, some twisted prank. But deep down, something darker whispered, what if it wasn't? When morning came, he tried to move on. Tried to make coffee, open the blinds, start the day like nothing had happened. But as he reached for the kettle, the clock on the wall clicked to 7:14 a.m. and stopped. Then it began again. Ring. The phone on the counter lit up, the same cracked screen flashing with an unknown number. He hesitated, remembering the last warning, but before he could react, it answered itself. Static. Then his voice, weary, urgent. You don't get it, Ethan. You're stuck. You keep making the same choice. What choice? He demanded. Who are you? You already know, the voice said. You just keep forgetting. The line went dead. The kettle whistled. Ethan turned it off, hands shaking. Everything around him felt identical. The smell of burnt toast. The hum of the refrigerator. The neighbor's muffled radio playing the same song it had yesterday. He checked his phone calendar. Thursday, April 9th. That couldn't be right. It had been Thursday yesterday too. Heart pounding, he opened the blinds. Down below, Mrs. Harlow from across the street was walking her dog, same yellow raincoat, same umbrella. A red car passed by, splashing the same puddle. It wasn't coincidence. It was a loop. Ethan staggered back, mind spinning. If this was happening again, could he change something? He grabbed his jacket, rushed out of the apartment, and retraced yesterday's steps. The street corner, the radio shop, the alley where he'd met the stranger. But when he got there, the alley was empty. No sign of anyone. Only his reflection staring back from a rain-soaked puddle. He leaned closer. His reflection didn't move. It blinked once, then spoke, lips moving just before the sound reached him. You're running out of loops, Ethan. He stumbled backward, breath shallow. What are you? The reflection tilted its head, expression solemn. I'm what's left when you forget. The surface of the water rippled violently, and when it settled, the reflection was gone. Thunder cracked above him. He turned and ran, heart pounding in his ears. By the time he reached his apartment, it was already evening again. The same flicker of lightning outside. The same clock ticking toward 9:04 p.m. He froze. That was the time the first voice had warned him about. Then came the sound, the knock at the door. Slow, steady, familiar. He looked through the peephole. No one there. But this time, the knocking didn't stop. It grew louder, sharper, until the frame of the door began to tremble. Go away, he shouted. Silence. Then a whisper, not from behind the door, but from his phone, lying on the counter. You can't stop the loop, Ethan. You can only end it. The clock clicked to 9:04 p.m. Lightning flashed. And when he looked up, his reflection in the window was still there, but smiling. The smile in the reflection didn't fade, even as Ethan stumbled backward from the window. The room was still, too still. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky like a warning he didn't understand. His reflection tilted its head again, perfectly calm, perfectly aware. And then from somewhere in the hallway, a door creaked open. He froze. Apartment 3B. The one across the hall. It had been empty for months. The landlord said no one wanted it after the last tenant disappeared. But now, a faint light flickered from underneath its door, a warm, golden glow that didn't belong in this gray night. Ethan's heart hammered. He wanted to ignore it, to pretend he hadn't seen it, but something inside him whispered, that's where the loop begins. He stepped out into the corridor. The floorboards creaked under his weight, the hum of the hallway lights filling the silence. The door to 3B was slightly ajar. From inside, he could hear the faint sound of a record player spinning, soft jazz echoing through the air like a memory from someone else's life. Hello, he called. His voice sounded small against the thunder. No answer. He pushed the door open. The apartment looked exactly like his. Same furniture, same layout, even the same coffee mug on the counter. But this wasn't his home. The air smelled different, faintly of cigarette smoke and lavender. A coat hung by the door, and on the couch sat a man, facing away, watching static on a broken TV. Ethan hesitated. Who are you? The man didn't move. You shouldn't be here, came the reply, in a voice that made Ethan's blood run cold. It was his own voice. He stepped closer, every muscle in his body tightening. What is this place? The figure turned his head slightly, revealing just enough of his face to confirm what Ethan already knew. It was him. Older, tired, eyes sunken with guilt. I tried to warn you, the older Ethan said, rising from the couch. You keep opening the wrong door. What do you mean? Ethan whispered. The older version didn't answer. He picked up something from the table, a small cassette tape labeled Day 1. You think this is the first time you've lived today? It isn't. You've done this more times than you can count. Every time you choose wrong, the day resets. Ethan stared, confusion turning to fear. Then how do I stop it? You can't stop it, his older self said quietly. You can only remember it. He tossed the tape toward Ethan. Play it when the storm hits again. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, the entire apartment seemed to ripple, walls bending, shadows stretching. When the thunder followed, Ethan blinked, and the man was gone. The room was empty. The record player silent. The door behind him now closed tight. Ethan rushed to open it, but the handle wouldn't budge. He slammed his shoulder into it. Nothing. Then he turned and saw the mirror above the couch. It was his reflection again, but this time it was screaming silently, mouthing the same word over and over. Run. He looked down at the tape in his hand. The label now read, Final Loop. A low hum filled the room, the sound of his phone vibrating back in his own apartment across the hall. He turned toward the door. The light flickered, and for the first time, Ethan realized the call had already started. The hum from the phone grew louder, vibrating through the walls like a pulse. Ethan stumbled back into his apartment, breathless, the cassette tape still clenched in his shaking hand. His phone buzzed across the table, screen flashing the same unknown number as before. 2:17 a.m. The exact time it all began. He hesitated, staring at the phone. If I answer, it all starts again. But what if not answering was what kept him trapped? The tape's label, Final Loop, seemed to mock him under the dim, flickering light. Lightning flashed outside, bathing the room in white for a second. In that flash, Ethan saw movement, his own reflection, standing behind him in the mirror. Only this time, the reflection wasn't watching quietly. It was smiling. Turned. No one there. The phone stopped ringing. Then, a voice echoed faintly through the air, coming from the tape recorder on his desk. He hadn't even pressed play. Ethan, the voice said. His voice. You're getting close. But you keep making the same choice. Ethan's hands trembled as he slid the cassette into the recorder and pressed play. The voice continued, calm, measured, older. Every time you try to fix the past, you end up right back here. You keep calling, hoping I'll pick up and change it. But there's no way to change what already happened. What did I do? Ethan whispered to himself. The voice hesitated. It's not what you did. It's what you didn't do. The room grew colder. The lights dimmed as if the apartment itself was listening. The recording crackled, and the sound of rain filled the speaker, matching the storm outside. Then, faintly, another voice, a woman's, broke through the static. Ethan, please don't leave tonight. Just listen to me. His chest tightened. That voice. Her voice. Maya, he breathed. He remembered it now, the night of the storm years ago. She'd begged him not to go out. He'd left anyway, chasing a job offer, chasing money, chasing something. She died that night in a car crash. And he'd been stuck ever since, replaying the same guilt, the same choices, the same silence. The tape hissed again. Then the older Ethan spoke one last time. If you want the loop to end, make the choice you never made. Ethan dropped to his knees. His heart pounded. The mirror across the room flickered, showing not his apartment anymore, but another version of it, cleaner, brighter. In that reflection stood Maya, alive, looking at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Ethan, she whispered through the glass. Don't run this time. Tears welled in his eyes. I don't know how. Then stay. He reached toward the mirror, hand trembling. The glass felt cold but alive, humming beneath his touch. The rain outside grew heavier, thunder shaking the walls. Then, the phone rang again. 2:17 a.m. Ethan looked at it, then back at the mirror. Maya was fading. He had to choose. If he answered, the loop would reset. If he stayed, maybe, just maybe, he could rewrite what never was. The phone rang one final time. Ethan closed his eyes, tears falling. I'm sorry, he whispered, and this time, he didn't reach for the phone. The ringing stopped. The storm went silent. And for the first time, the mirror didn't reflect him at all. The silence that followed was heavier than the thunder had ever been. Ethan stayed kneeling on the cold floor, staring at the motionless mirror. His reflection was gone, not distorted, not hiding, simply gone. The phone sat still beside him, its screen dim and lifeless, like it had never rung at all. He could hear his heartbeat echo in the hollow quiet of the apartment. For the first time in what felt like years, the ticking of the old wall clock sounded normal again. No rewind, no loop, just steady, relentless time. He whispered into the emptiness, "Maya?" No answer. Only the faint sound of rain sliding down the window, slower now, gentler. Then, from the recorder still on the table, came a soft click. The tape had stopped, but something inside it whirred like a pulse trying to start again. Ethan stood, moved closer, and pressed rewind. But instead of whirring backward, it ejected itself, the tape landing at his feet. Across the label, fresh ink glistened, letters that hadn't been there before, "Answer once more." Ethan's throat tightened. "No, I can't." He turned away, but then the phone lit up. The same unknown number. The same time. 2:17 a.m. But this time, the caller ID flickered with a name, Maya R. He froze. The glow from the screen painted his face pale blue. He stepped closer, fingers trembling. If he answered, would it all start again? Or was this different, the real last call? He took a breath and pressed accept. There was no voice on the other end, only soft static, and then, faintly, her breathing. Familiar. Fragile. "Ethan," Maya whispered. "It's okay. You can let go now." His knees buckled, tears stinging his eyes. "I tried, Maya. Every night. I tried to change it." "I know," she said softly. "But you were never supposed to change it. You were supposed to forgive yourself." Lightning flashed, and the mirror across the room rippled like water. Her reflection appeared again, but she wasn't trapped this time. She was standing in a field of soft morning light, no rain, no darkness. She smiled at him, not haunting, not broken, peaceful. "Remember what you promised me?" she asked. He nodded, voice cracking. "That I'd never run again. Then live, Ethan." The static deepened, and her image began to fade. Panic filled his chest. "Maya, wait. Don't go. Please don't." "Goodbye doesn't mean gone," she whispered. "It means you finally made the right choice." And then the line went dead. The storm outside cleared, as if the world itself exhaled. Ethan sat in silence, the phone still warm in his hand. The clock read 2:18 a.m. For the first time, a new minute had passed. He walked to the mirror. It reflected him again now, older, tired, but free. Behind his reflection, faint rays of dawn broke through the window. On the table lay the tape, now blank. He picked it up, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Thank you." Then he placed it in a drawer, closed it gently, and turned off the light. As he walked out the door, a soft breeze carried the echo of Maya's voice through the room, almost like the faint hum of a phone call ending. And somewhere, in the quiet between seconds, the loop finally broke.